And welcome to my channel. If you're not familiar with my work, I am what I would call a fitness YouTuber with very few videos up to date, but the one today I was sort of hesitant on making, but it has been on my mind for a long time. If you're familiar with Mike Dolce or the Dolce diet, this could interest you. So without further ado, let's get on to the topic. So in 2018, I became sort of interested and followed his work. He's very popular sort of in popular and well known and well respected, rightfully so, in MMA circles. He's a weight cut expert. Did work together with Ronda Rousey and a lot of other famous mixed martial artists. Thiago Alves, for example, is one of them, the Pitbull. Many others, but I digress. So the more I followed his work, the more I agreed with what he said. His system is built up, it's not a system, it's more of a lifestyle on sort of, eating real food every 2 to 4 hours, depending on the activity level, getting hydration right, earth-grown nutrients, not obsessing about calories. His mantra sort of is, don't count calories, make calories count. That's what he says. He's a massive advocate of walking for cardio, so just literally just move, walking, which again, for the general population is the best form of cardio. I totally agree with that. So a lot of things I really found interesting, and he banged on a lot about a lot of sort of in-depth knowledge that he has, which I don't doubt. So I became really interested, and when he put out some information that he was holding a Dolce diet coach certification in Las Vegas, Nevada, I just thought, I have to do this. I mean, I'm a qualified personal trainer. I also have a qualification as a sports nutritionist. I have done for a while, so I have worked with a lot of clients alongside my day job, so that isn't my full-time job. But if I make money, I invested in more qualifications or seminars, so the Dolce diet one really interested me, plus I wanted to go to Vegas really, really, really bad. The UFC was also on, so it was International Fight Week, and it was the one where Stipe Miocic fought Daniel Cormier, so I just thought, I have to go, I can't not go. So I took the money that I sort of earned that year from coaching alongside my day job, so it was just surplus income. I went to Las Vegas. Now I booked this certification, I booked my flights, all in all the cost, so the cost for the certification was around $800. The flight costs, all in all, with spending money and with the hotel, at the end I looked at around $3,000, which is a lot of money. So leading up to the qualification, I mean, I was really excited about it, massively so. So I kept messaging them, the Dolce diet, and messaging him on YouTube or Instagram. I didn't really get an answer, and I thought, okay, the guy's busy, he's got a massive following, I'll just go and see what happens. So I got there, and Vegas, of course, for the first time, really exciting, jet lagged, and so it couldn't have started any worse for me, because I kept myself up. So I left the UK on a, I think, 2 p.m. flight out of Heathrow. And I arrived in Vegas 10 hours later, which would have been 7 o'clock local time. So I kept myself up. Went to a 7-Eleven and tried a few things, and went to my hotel and just went to bed and slept, and thought, you know what, I've got away with that. I got up at really, really early, got a Starbucks, which Starbucks in Vegas is probably on every corner, which is something I hadn't seen before, but I digress. So, so I thought I got away with it, sort of fell asleep at the hotel pool. 4 hours later, I woke up panicking because I had to be there in half an hour. So I went to the Dolce Diet Center in Las Vegas for the qualification. Now, this qualification had been advertised as this massive thing, and there would be a VIP guest, which at the time I assumed would be a UFC athlete, a mixed martial artist, with it being International Fight Week. It was really hyped up. Now, when I got there, it was Mike Dolce himself and his lead dietitian, Meg. Lovely people. I mean, I followed them on YouTube, so I was a big fan, listened to the podcasts and everything. So the first evening was sort of just to get to know each other type of thing, as you would in any sort of setting like that. You got sort of a welcome pack, which consisted of a booklet and a few slides, opening slides, and just sort of, it was the first evening, so not a lot happened. Sorry, I'm just adjusting my phone. And in the end, I went home excited for the next day, which was a Saturday, I believe, which was then a full day of basically working on the qualification. So the lead role of that day was, with the full day, was Meg, the lead dietitian. So she went through a lot of slides on nutrition, which, in all honesty, very basic. And that sort of criticism, it's just something you would learn as a very basic nutrition qualification. Sort of calories, macros, that type of thing. What effect calories have on the body, well, the different macros, nothing really too in-depth. So I thought, okay, interesting. That went on for a few hours. The jet lag really got me hard, so I was struggling and just thought, ooh, okay. So, because especially the next day, we were going to get tested on all of this. So I wasn't too worried, to be fair, because it was all stuff that I'd sort of worked with on a day-to-day basis, being in that industry, albeit part-time. Mike sort of gave a little bit of advice on how to build a business, trademarking, that type of stuff, and referred a lot to, what was it? The Richest Man in Babylon, which is a book. Interesting book. I was familiar with it, so it's a good way of looking at how to generate wealth, or how to work with the money you have to generate savings and invest. Okay, so I'll not go further into that, but that was basically that day. So to be honest, nothing revolutionary, and there wasn't a VIP guest. Okay, it was just a full day of that, and that was the night the UFC was on. So I went to see that at the, I think it was the LG Arena in Vegas. Hopefully I'm right. Doesn't really matter for the purpose of this video anyway. So the next day the test happened. No VIP guest. The test was sort of a multiple choice type of thing, so it really wasn't very hard. It was common sense, actually, and you can always ask questions. So it was one of those where it was hard not to pass if you know the basics of nutrition. That's sort of a given. And then pretty much after, we did a little bit of sort of motivational interviewing with him, so I actually volunteered for that. That'll be the thumbnail. Motivational interviewing of a client, so I was the client, Mike DOLCE was the coach, and yeah, it was interesting to get his view. I do find the guy fascinating. I've got to say, there's no criticism to him or Meg in any of this, but for what this was advertised as, this nutrition conference, and there'll be all kinds, it was very, 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 for me, clear that it was very hyped up to be something it actually wasn't. There wasn't a VIP guest. There wasn't an in-depth coaching on how you would weight cut a high-profile athlete. It was very much just learning the basics, getting that qualification, but directing them to the dolcediet.com with a, well, I suppose with a discount code that I was allocated. These people then work with the dietitian, which is Meg, at the Dolce Diet. So I don't work directly with them, but I sort of counsel them. So I even thought, well, how does that work? I've got to charge them my fee, then they've got to buy this program there, and then they possibly have to invest even more to work with a dietitian. So at that point, I was sort of a bit miffed off. I was a bit confused and thought, well, this is actually just almost like a pyramid type of scheme type of thing. Where do I make my money? And it seemed quite disorganized, because in the end the merchandise was brought out. We were allowed to take t-shirts, and I didn't have cash on me, so I said, well, can I pay you digitally at some point? I want 2 t-shirts. So I took 2 t-shirts, obviously noted that down, and just said, so there was a little bit of chatting with Mike, not a lot. I mean, for a guy that I idolized, there was really just not that much in the way of chances. And I'll be honest, that's the last time I ever heard of Mike DOLCE himself. So I left there with my 2 t-shirts, sort of hyped up because I'd seen him in person, and because You know, the group was nice people that I still speak to on social media now, and really nice people. There's one in specific that's just recently had his firstborn child. Congratulations to you, know who you are. Yeah, but I since haven't heard from Mike Dolce himself. Now, I took the time in Vegas, and afterwards, I went sort of to Chipotle, and I did the typical US sort of thing, Cinnabons, which there's one at Vegas Airport as well. If you're ever there, go there. If you like sweet stuff. If you don't like that, then we can't be friends. But yeah, so following that, I got an email about 1 week later saying I had passed. So far, so good. Asking for a picture of me, my social media sort of details, and a few other things, which I all answered. I sent a few pictures asking, is that okay? I put in also, I owe you for 2 t-shirts. I hereby give you sort of my social media. What will you do with it? Where will my profile be uploaded? Just various other questions. What happens now? Will I be put in a database? Will I be added to a Facebook coaches group, which there was mention of? So I didn't get an answer to that. I waited a lot, probably about 2 or 3 weeks, got absolutely nothing back, and I thought, strange. So I followed it up. Again, heard absolutely zilch, nothing. I then, in the end, went and sort of befriended Meg, the lead dietitian on Instagram, and pinged her a message, to which Mike's wife, Brandy, messaged me, and I'd asked about 5 questions. To that question, the answer, she answered one question, just saying that the certificate is being worked on. The certificate is what I was chasing. But there were a lot of other questions. How does this now go on? How do I pay for the t-shirts? A lot of questions. How does the system work? What's my promo code? There's probably about 7 questions. One answer. I pinged an email back with the questions again. Could you please answer them? No answer. This went on for another about 4 or 5 weeks. I messaged some of the other guys who'd been at the course. Same for them. They heard nothing. I was under the impression I was going to be part of this Dolce Diet group. There would be some sort of, I messaged Mike on Instagram multiple times. Absolutely no answer or acknowledgement. To which, other people said similar from the group, that they got no answer. And Mike himself didn't reply to anything on Facebook or Instagram, which are sort of, he is a busy guy. He's got a massive high profile. He's got a lot of followers. He gets a lot of messages. I get that. So it's not a stab at him, but there was just absolutely nothing. Yeah. So I was at this point fairly disappointed and just thought, well, this is really strange. So I started actually pulling back a little bit. I mean, me communicating through my channels that I was working with Mike Dolce actually surprisingly got me quite a few clients. So I did make some money out of it, and probably made roughly about what I invested back. However, the Dolce Diet, so as a review, it's not rocket science. It's actually what I coach as it is, apart from that I actually teach that calories do matter and that people should learn them, which I insist on now is right. I'm not going to say that Mike is obviously a lot more knowledgeable than I. I don't know that he's got a team of dietitians, because I've only ever seen or heard of Meg. And a lot of other things that Mike tends to on social media, in my opinion, he can maybe prove me wrong. And I'm just giving my opinion. I'm not criticizing him. I'm not taking a stab at him. But he's been talking about squats and steak, for example, since I followed him. This has still not come out, this program. Just don't say things that might not happen. Basic rule. He puts it on YouTube all the time, and comments on YouTube sometimes are as well. Oh, I've emailed you, I've messaged you, I've never heard back. That's pretty much how I felt. So I thought, well, what the hell? For someone who's as, at times, hypercritical as Mike, he sometimes, opens himself to criticism. And this, again, this is nothing personal. This is not, I think that he's a fantastic coach. I think that he's probably, there's a lot of merit. There's a lot of, his books, 3 Weeks to Shredded and, Living Lean, I do enjoy them, and some of the methods I would pass on, I would use. But certainly this qualification and the way he exaggerates, or the way he speaks about all this stuff, you don't actually ever really see it. That's the thing. And yes, the system is good that he uses, the system that teaches you exactly what portions that's all stuff that you can learn. Yeah, it's just eating a wide variety of foods, which I would coach. Eating frequently throughout the day, eating protein. I would just teach why we do it, so you don't become hooked on that. So it becomes, Mike sort of teaches that as well. It's a system that for me and in the UK didn't work, because it doesn't teach people how do I go about, if I want to be a bit flexible with stuff, how do I have a drink at the weekend if I want to, how do I do this, how do I do that. So it might be a UK specific thing. And I encountered a little bit of the same in Germany with some clients where, people wanted to have a beer every now and again. And to me, I'd rather teach them how to calculate that into your macros. Yes, alcohol sort of does a little bit of something to the body, but who cares? You can have a beer. This is the human experience. This isn't a perfect world. And that's another thing where Mike was very rigid. He was always very keen to point out, alcohol's a poison, the poisons every cell in the body. Yes, technically yes, but we're in the real world. Let's look at how we can sort of make it work and have people still have fun in their life. And again, that's just my view. I'm not being snidey or anything like that. I just think that for my specific client base, that works better. So would I take the investment again and make that same decision? My answer is no, definitely not. Definitely wasn't worth the $800. I haven't referred one client to his database for the simple fact that there was absolutely no communication, apart from Meg, who was very responsive on Instagram. But in terms of a team, a customer service team, there was no one to contact. There's a phone number, no one answered. It was Mike's wife, Brandy, who in the end sent the certificate. It did come in the post, I got it. But by that point, I was that miffed off that I just thought, you know what? I'm not referring a single of my clients. I mean, I never got told if my pictures got used on any sort of database. No Facebook group. There was no follow-up. There was no, how Chris, how's it going in the UK? Another question that couldn't be answered or didn't get an answer to is, am I the only one in the UK that's DOLCE diet certified? It shouldn't be too difficult to get that answer, but they couldn't answer it because I just didn't get a reply. So I felt massively let down in the end. And I put this into an email once or twice. I put my concerns and what I've spent in terms of what the whole trip cost me. I put all that in an email a few times, and the usual answers, we haven't got it, there's a technical issue, that's okay. But at the end of the day, come on. I put it on multiple platforms. So as you can tell, I am a little bit miffed off. That's maybe why I left it. I mean, this was 2018, it's 2020 now, so it's close to, in 5 months, it'll be 2 years since I went there. And I went back and forth because I just thought, well, for someone from the UK to travel, from here, it's a 40-minute flight to London Heathrow, and then another 10-hour flight to Vegas. Yes, I got the Vegas experience, but I was massively excited. I put it through my social media channels, and again, I did get a return on investment there. But that's because I like to work with people, and I think people, as I was, were impressed with Mike DOLCE. And to be honest, I felt let down. The system isn't rocket science. It's certainly not worth investing from my side as a coach that amount of money into if you can't even speak to the guy outside of that event, that he completely ignores you. Yes, he'll acknowledge you on a YouTube comment and say, give you a shout out or something like that. He's very proactive. He's very active on YouTube. He reacts to most comments. But I just feel that beyond that, there's absolutely nothing there. Okay? So again, take that as my experience. Maybe other people's experience was slightly different. Maybe people in the US saw it differently. They maybe have been contacted. I don't know. Maybe it was just a thing that I wasn't contacted. But again, I don't know if my pictures were used. I don't know if I'm part of some sort of database. I don't know. They certainly didn't refer any clients to me, which was part of sort of the bullet point breakdown on the advert for the qualification. Access to clients through their system, and contact with the customer service team or team of dietitians. there was no explanation on how the whole thing worked. I got a discount code, which, yeah, I used for myself to buy 3 weeks of Shredded to just see what it actually works like. But in the end, as I said, by that point, I'd grown that, I don't want to use the word resentful, but I was really miffed off. Okay? So at that point, I just thought, you know what, I'm not going to support this any further. I'd stopped using the social media hashtags, and I just went back to fat loss with German efficiency, which is my system, which works. I mean, I get clients like that, and it still works to this day. Using the method that I've always used, teaching people calories, the importance of protein, walking, lifting, living, drinking, sleeping being probably one of the most important things that I address these days. So I can get people in a decent shape teaching those principles. Yes, they correlate with Mike DOLCE's principles, eating frequently throughout the day, eating protein, that type of thing. So that all isn't rocket science, or it's not reinventing the wheel. It is just simply the principles of how to live healthy, lean, or if you want to get shredded, you can get shredded. I can facilitate that with the knowledge that I have for the majority of the population. I can get my girlfriend into shape, but I can also get someone who is very in shape, by the way. Very nice. How cringy was that? But I can also get someone who's massively obese. Probably obese would have been enough of a description. Who's obese into decent shape. So I can do that, but I can also give advice to athletes on a higher level because I've worked with them in the past. So my favorite thing to do is to get someone who's really unhappy and overweight into a better place. That's what I like to do most, because those people appreciate it, they learn from it, and you can teach them. It's taking the easiest target, because you just apply a few little things and it changes their life. Yeah. Other than that, love to coach lifting, very basic principles. But again, we're going off topic. So my review is that I wouldn't, based on my experience, advise people to do it for that cost. Maybe things have changed and they've improved, and the business was just overwhelmed with people at the time, and he just didn't have the resources to really make it what he wanted it to. There is that. I've worked for companies before where that was the case, where you spread very thin and you can't give everyone the attention, so you go only to the biggest accounts where your money comes from. It's the 80-20 rule. But if you take $800 from people, don't poo-poo on them. Which is how I felt in the end. So again, nothing personal, no personal criticism to Mike, Meg, or Brandy. I don't know Brandy, but yeah, can only say, for me, really not worth the money. Actually, in the end, very disappointed. Still, I still listen to his podcast and that type of thing, but I tend to pick little things out where I just think, stop over-promising. Just be real. People do genuinely think the world of him, because he's got all the accolades. He's 4 times MMA coach of the year, all kinds of stuff he's worked with. He's got nothing to prove in that sense, but don't be as brazen about it and stop promising squats and steak. He's been doing that for ages, which is okay. Just either do it or don't. Stop promising people that people are asking all the time. So that wasn't a snide remark either, I'm sorry, okay? I just get carried away a little bit. But so that's my honest review of my experience getting Dolce Diet certified. I've gone back to my own system. I know so have some from the group. This is just for transparency, and it is an open marketplace. This isn't slander. This is just a personal experience. So again, I'm prepared to talk about that in an open forum. That's fine by me, which I don't expect to happen, because again, just a user, just a customer, not criticizing, but reviewing an experience, something that I purchased. So again, nothing personal. I still think the brand's cool, but I wouldn't do it again under no circumstances. Okay, so that's just that. One thing to bear in mind, and again, no negativity, but that's my opinion of it. Anyway, thanks guys. If you've got any questions, just comment below. Give the video a like. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see any of my upcoming content. I do intend to do quite a bit, also collabs with some other coaches, and I want to do few more videos on mental health, digestion, gut health, that type of thing. Just the recent topics, sleep, massive. So yeah, stay tuned. Have a good one. Bye.